Okay, Sanction from LexisNexis is a software application that allows us to take anything that we've collected throughout a litigation and gives us one location to present it from. Unlike, say, a PowerPoint presentation, what Sanction gives me the ability to do is not only to be flexible in what I can show, where I can bring up anything in my case at any time I need it, it also gives me flexibility to change what I'm actually displaying on the fly without presetting a slide. So the best way to illustrate what Sanction can do for a litigation attorney is to show you how it can be worked, say, in a closing argument. So I've got a closing argument show set up here, or a closing argument evidence set up ready to present, and I'm just going to walk through this closing argument and tell you a story. And as I'm telling you this story, you'll be able to see how Sanction works and how I can interact with the product. So in 1995, the Murrah Federal Building was destroyed by a Ryder truck that was packed with explosive devices, including fertilizer. This is going to be the story of how we tie the circumstantial evidence together to convict Timothy McVeigh of this bombing. The first picture I'm showing you here is a picture of some security footage from an apartment complex that was 1 block down the street. And you'll notice down here in the lower right-hand corner that this security footage is from April 19th, 1995, and it starts at about 8:55 in the morning. The time on this clock is about 2 minutes off. The bomb actually exploded at 9:02 a.m., but as I scroll through, you're going to see where we go with this security footage, as I have several still frames of it. The next screen, what you're going to see immediately come in at the top of that screen, is you're going to see that Ryder truck come into the frame. And what the evidence showed us in this case was that this Ryder truck pulled up here and parked for a period of time as the fuse was being lit to detonate the explosives. And I'm just going to go ahead and step through a couple more, and you're going to see that Ryder truck stays in the frame. It stays in the frame. It's still in the photo as more is happening on the security footage. And as you're going to see here in the next couple of frames, it's starting to move. And then right here at the tail end of it, you're going to see the back end of that truck as it's going off the screen and heading down the street. So as we all know, that truck detonated, and this is a picture looking to the east from in front of that apartment complex. And down here at the bottom of the screen, what you're going to see as I zoom in, that is the rear axle of this Ryder truck. This is where the investigation really begins in terms of how we tie Timothy McVeigh to this bombing. As I scroll through, you're going to see the damage that that rear axle went. That thing weighed about 300 pounds, and it flew, as you saw, a city block and landed on this car. As I continue to scroll through, one of the things about these rear axles is the VIN number, which you won't be able to make it out here very well, but I'll show you a zoom in of it in a second. That is the actual VIN number of the truck. As I scroll to the next one, you see we scanned this photo and kind of cleaned it up, and you can see that VIN number for what was stenciled on that rear axle. So what does that VIN number mean? This next slide here is going to tell you, or this next photo is going to tell you, how we identify vehicles in this country. And what you're going to see is the long, full VIN number not only tells us who the manufacturer is, as I'm looking over here on this side of the screen, but it also will tell us other information about this truck. So how we started this investigation was, it was manufactured by Ford. A phone call was placed to Ford, and this truck was actually manufactured sometime in the 1994 timeframe. When we called Ford, Ford told us that it was sold to Ryder in the latter part of 1994, and then Ryder told us that it was rented from Elliott's Body Shop in Junction City, Kansas. So let's head off to Junction City, Kansas, and see how we tied this thing together. After we scoured all the records and looked all over the city of Junction City, it took us to this place called the Dreamland Motel. At the Dreamland Motel, we discovered that room 25 had a guest, and that guest that checked in was somebody named Tim McVeigh, and he checked in from 3616 North Van Dyke in Decker, Michigan, into room 25. Just so there's no confusion, this was Mr. McVeigh's driver's license that shows that he was in fact living at 3616 North Van Dyke in Decker, Michigan. Sometime during this time frame, on or about April 15th, as I zoom in down here and show you these phone records, these are the phone calls that were placed from room 25 at the Dreamland Motel. On April 15th, we had 2 phone calls placed to the phone number of 238-8888 from room 25. As we go to the next photo, 2388 was actually a place called the Hunan Palace in Junction City, Kansas. And what I'm going to show you over here is you're going to see the phone numbers that were actually called in this restaurant. 1 Mugu Gai Pan and 1 egg roll was the order. As I scroll down this photo to look at the bottom, you're going to see something interesting here, it was actually a fellow named Kling that placed in this phone order from that Dreamland Hotel room 25. So who is Bob Kling? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. This here is the Ryder truck rental form that was signed for at Elliott's Body Shop in Junction City, Kansas. And you'll notice down here in the lower right-hand corner, it was actually Robert D. Kling that rented this Ryder truck. So how do we tie Robert Kling to Tim McVeigh? What I'm showing you here now is some photos that we made, or some demonstrative evidence that we made in this case, to how we tied Robert Kling to Tim McVeigh. So the left-hand side of the screen represents all known handwriting samples that were admitted to evidence during this trial. And what we did is we pulled out the letters that spelled out Robert Kling so we could make a signature out of it. The one difference is you're going to notice R-O-B. We did not have a lowercase b, so we used a lowercase l instead. As I scroll through to the next photo, you're going to see we pieced those together to make the signature of Robert Kling. As we continue through this comparison, the top line is a signature that we pieced together. The bottom line is the signature that the person who signed for Robert Kling on that rental truck agreement signed. And as I remove all the boxes, compare the middle signature with the bottom signature, there's no doubt in my mind that the person that signed for as Robert Kling on this Ryder truck rental form was in fact Tim McVeigh. How do we further place these color photos, or further place these signatures in the person in that location? Let me show you a color photo of Elliott's Body Shop in Junction City, Kansas. So as I go back to my circle here, I'm going to draw a circle down here at the bottom of the screen to show you where Elliott's Body Shop was. And I'm going to draw a circle up here to show you this McDonald's. Those locations are about 1 mile apart. We took a 65-year-old FBI agent out there during this period of time during this investigation and had him walk from that McDonald's to that Elliott's Body Shop, and it took him about 15 minutes. Well, why did we want to know how long that took him? Because as I show you, I've got some security footage from that McDonald's. Down here in the lower right-hand corner, what you're going to see is on April 17th, the day the Ryder truck was rented, at 3:57 p.m., about 23 or 25 minutes before that Ryder truck was rented, we've got somebody in this McDonald's. And as we scroll through this, you're going to see that the person in this McDonald's is in fact Tim McVeigh. So, circumstantial evidence on how we took it from the moment that Ryder truck showed up on the scene all the way through placing Tim McVeigh within 1 mile of the Ryder truck rental, including assigning his signature style or his writing style to that signature, is how we pieced together the circumstantial evidence to convict this person. Okay, so that's an example of a closing argument of how we would present it in sanction. Let me now talk about what some other types of evidence are that we can actually present through this product. The one thing I want to focus on now is how we can work with, say, medical illustrations and medical records as part of this process. So we have a tool called LexisNexis Advanced that has a little segment of it called MedMal Navigator. A MedMal Navigator allows us to go through there and do research about medical malpractice cases. And one of the key things that comes out of medical malpractice cases is, how do I present my medical illustrations and how do I present my medical records? So the first thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to bring up a medical record on the screen. And this is just a simple page with some notes on it. So as an example of how I would use this in a trial setting is if I'm examining a doctor or a witness or somebody having to do with these medical records, what I can do is as I have this witness on the stand, I can say, Mr. Witness, let me show your attention, focus your attention on the top portion of this document. In particular, I want you to look at the notes that have the star next to them on this document under objective data. So what I can do there is, instead of passing paper around the courtroom, instead of just showing this record to the witness as that witness and I are talking back and forth, what I'm now able to do is take everybody in the room and focus their attention exactly on the portion of that medical record that I want them to see. So as I hit escape, that's going to clear my screen out. So how can I also tie in medical illustrations? So just like the other items that I showed before, the medical illustrations become an image or just a color photograph that I'm bringing into this product to show. And with everything else, I can do things like switch to circles. I can switch to arrows. I can switch to zoom tools to allow me to really focus a juror's attention or focus a decision maker's attention, if it's a bench trial, into this exact location of where I want this to show. So this was a small subset of the things that sanction can present as part of a litigation. And in addition to the color photos and some of the documents we've shown, we can also bring in videotape depositions, we can bring in transcripts, we can bring in audio files. Sanction can collect anything that you have as part of this litigation, pull it into one location, and let you present any piece of evidence you have at any time.